Okay. So now let us see once again very clearly of how to use the kinematic indeterminacy concept to beams. Kinematic indeterminacy. Okay. So there is one table that I have already shown. How many reactions are there and how many degrees of freedom are there? So one has to be very clear with that. How many reactions are there and how many degrees of freedom are there? Otherwise, it becomes difficult to understand the scope of taking things forward. Okay. So in this regard, it is also necessary for us to visualize the concept first and then apply it. So all of you can see this here. So I am sketching a fixed beam, a fixed supported one, and roller here and a roller here. Okay. So first we have static indeterminacy, and then we have kinematic indeterminacy. Okay. So this is how we need to clearly distinguish between static and kinematic parts. So if you can see now, first let us write number of unknown reactions. Number of unknown reactions is equal to, for fixed, how much? How many for fixed? 3. Correct. So here we have 3 for roller 1. Here also 1. So 3 plus 1 plus 1, that is equal to 5. Okay. Now number of unknown degree of freedom. Number of unknown degree of freedom is equal to, for fixed, can it move anywhere? No, 0. For roller, it is 2. Horizontal, vertical, and rotation. And for this roller also 2. 2 plus 2, that is equal to 4 for extensible case. For extensible case. Okay. Now for inextensible, so 1, let me change the color. So 1 and 1. So in brackets I am writing this is extensible, this is inextensible. This is also extensible, this is inextensible. Horizontal is ignored. So that is equal to 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. This means inextensible. Okay, inextensible. Now, what is the degree of static indeterminacy? Static part. When we want static part, how do we solve it? We solve it based on, so ds is equal to R minus N, and N is equal to number of equations of equilibrium, and this is always is equal to 3. So ds is equal to how much? 5 minus 3, that is equal to 2. So statically indeterminate to second degree. Statically indeterminate to second degree. Now, when it comes to kinematic indeterminacy, so dk are degrees of freedom, that can be given by, so dk is equal to what did we say? 0 plus 2 plus 2, that is equal to 4 for extensible, and neglecting axial deformation, dk is equal to 0 plus 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. Or you can solve it like dk is equal to 3j minus r. Okay, so how many joints are there? How many joints are there for the beam? How many joints are there in the beam? 3 joints. Number of joints is equal to 3. So therefore, this is equal to 3 into 3 minus R, reaction components. How many reaction components are there? R is equal to, how many reaction components are there? 5, correct. 3 into 3 minus 5, that is equal to 4. This is for extensible case. Now, neglecting axial deformation, dk is equal to 4 minus 2, that is equal to 2. Why 2? Here 1 is removed and here also 1 is removed. Okay, so that is how we calculate the degree of kinematic indeterminacy. With one, I'll show you one more example again. Some more cases. So I think you are all clear with that. Some note points I will say. Okay, some note points. Note points for dk. When roller is given, degree of freedom will be 2 for extensible, and it will be 1 for, it will be 1 when axial deformation is neglected. Okay. Next, second point, when free end is given, degree of freedom is 3. For extensible, and it will be 2 when axial deformation is neglected. Okay. The last point, when internal hinge is given, when internal hinge is given, degree of freedom is 4 and will be 6, will be 3 if axial deformation is neglected. So all of you should please remember this point. These 3 points are very important to be considered. And in order to write degree of static and kinematic indeterminacy, all of you follow one methodology to be very simple. So if you are given with a beam, see here, if you are given with a beam, okay, with some supports, make a habit of writing reactions at the top. So reaction R will be 3, 1, 1, and make a habit of writing degrees of freedom at the bottom is equal to 0, 2, 2. So, and you always should remember that degree of freedom extensible case and inextensible case is equal to 0, 0, 1, 1. So all of you please follow this methodology to avoid any sort of confusion when you are going to take the things forward. Okay. So with this, degree of static indeterminacy, kinematic indeterminacy is over. Next, we move on to some of the advantages and disadvantages of indeterminate and determinate structures, and that's it for the chapter. Okay. Uh, yeah. So let us try to consider a statically determinate structure as well as indeterminate structure. So when we have a fabrication error during construction for a statically determinate structure of this shape, see what will happen. It will move, all the joints will be moving corresponding to each other. But if you have a statically indeterminate structure with fabrication error, see what will happen. This will be compressed. So these two will be compressed at this portion, and because of the compression, the top joints will be put under tension. And when the top joints are putting under tension, additional forces will occur in the structure, which might not be a good sign for the overall construction. That means in a statically determinate structure, there won't be any stresses developed. All the members will go together if there is a fabrication error. But if it is a statically indeterminate structure, some stresses will be developed. At the same time, members are forced to fit. That is point number 1. Next, if there is a geometric change, that causes indirect stresses. So for example, there is a temperature change on a hot sunny day, these members are heated up pretty fast. No stresses will be developed, but position of this member will change because of expansion and contraction. But when it comes to statically indeterminate, because this joint is a rigid joint, by truss action they will be restricted, and again thermal stresses will be formed. So whenever there is a temperature change or fabrication error, determinate structures will not undergo any stresses, but indeterminate structures, because it is holding tight without movement, as we have seen before, it will form the fabrication related stresses or thermal stresses. So here is one practical example of what will happen. You can see here, this is one of the big joint in one of the structure that is considered. If expansion joint does not allow expansion, if it doesn't allow expansion, this is a duct. This entire thing is called a duct. is statically determinate. Is it clear for all? If it is not allowing expansion, then it is statically determinate. But if it is subjected to 800-degree temperature, high temperature, it will crumple, like it will compress completely, like a water bottle or a beer can or a Sprite can. No, normally the Sprite and Pepsi, we have it in cans. After you drink the entire cool drink, if you can try to compress it, it will like crumple. So that is the behavior under different heating. So this is actually under the 800-degree temperature. So this is one example. Another example is you take a bridge. So this is example of a bridge structure. A bridge structure. You have two simple beams resting on three piers or columns. Now, when it is subjected to load at the bottom, that is foundation. If the ground is settling, then you see what is happening. The beams are deflecting, and any further settlement, no curvature, no movement. Just they are settling. So slowly they are moving here and there. But when you take a statically indeterminate beam, it will bend, it will form a curvature, and it will be intact. So that is the difference between a simple beam and a continuous beam, which is statically determinate and indeterminate. Then we have one more example. If there is a live load acting, that means these are all vehicles now. So if vehicles are moving in both the determinate structure and indeterminate structure, see what will happen. This is the bending moment diagram. Because of this, the maximum bending moment is WL square by 8, simply supported. But for indeterminate, WL square by 21.4. Once you derive, you will get it. In third unit, we will study this. How do we get this WL square by 21.4? So what is happening? The stresses are very small here compared to determinate stresses. And you can see the deflection. So deflection of a simply supported beam is 5WL power 4 by 384 EI. And it will have a greater stiffness here. So a statically indeterminate structure will have a greater stiffness compared to determinate. And see what will happen if it is subjected to some load or depending upon the members. Degree of static indeterminacy is 0 here and it is 1 here. Now, if you try to remove, like say for example, because of heavy floods or because of any accident, middle column was completely washed away. So because the middle column was completely washed away, and if it is subjected to load, Are Bapre, see the difficulty here? The entire beam is falling down. It will not survive. There is no redundancy at all. But this beam, which is intact together, it will survive because the beam can take additional moment. So what is that called as? Greater robustness. So may survive redundant loss of massive overload. So if you have a question of what are the advantages and disadvantages of determinate and indeterminate structures, so this is what you need to write. Okay. So now, so this is all about the understanding of advantages and disadvantages of the statically determinate as well as indeterminate structures. So I'll hold the so that's it from chapter 1. So if anybody has any doubt, yeah. So the next topic that we are going to learn today is the analysis of perfect frames. So let us try to understand what is a perfect frame, when do we define it as a perfect frame, and is there anything called imperfect frames? That's what we will see now. Okay. So first of all, we all know that what exactly is a frame. We've already seen that. So I've taken this entire material from Engineering Mechanics by R.S. Kurmi. That's one of the very interesting book, and the PPT also was taken from that. So a frame may be defined as a structure that is made up of several bars, rivets, weld complete connections together with different sections, and they are called members of the frame of a framed structure. So though these members are not, welded or riveted together at their joints, but for the calculation purpose, we are trying to name it as a frame and try to solve it. Okay. Now, That's a simple example of a frame. So a frame can look like this, or it can look like this, a truss. It can look like a truss. It can look like a proper frame. So all three things are possible. Okay. So now, what is the importance of this corresponding uh, frame, and why do we need to use it? So, firstly, there are different types of frames. We have two important things. One is a perfect frame, and another one is imperfect frame. I'm repeating again. We have a perfect frame, and we have an imperfect frame. So, what? How do we define a perfect frame? Okay. So now a perfect frame is that which is made up of members just to keep it in equilibrium. So for all the members to be in equilibrium when it is loaded, that type of frame is called a perfect frame. So it will not change its shape. Whenever we apply a load, if it is not changing its shape and if it is in equilibrium condition, then it is called a perfect frame. And the simplest perfect frame is a triangle which contains three members and three joints. So this is member 1, member 2, member 3. Joint 1, joint 2, joint 3. So three members and three joints. Now if this is subjected to any load, it should not deflect or distort. It should not deflect or distort. So in order to ensure that a perfect frame is not deflecting from its original position, we need to know that there should be minimum three members and minimum three joints. But if you wanted to increase the number of a joint, or if you want to increase the number of joints to more than three, we require two more members. Say for example, this is the fourth joint. So in order to have a fourth joint from a triangle, what should we do? See here, this is a triangle, and if I want to have another joint, I need to create how many members? Two members. So this is the fourth member, this is the fifth member. So for any additional joint, it requires two members are required. So the number of members in a perfect frame may also be expressed as, so this can be n or m. So m is equal to 2j minus 3. All of you please see carefully, how did we get the formula? M is equal to 2j minus 3. J is the joint. So at each and every joint, it will have a horizontal movement and a vertical movement. That is why corresponding to J, we have 2. And what is this 3? Every minimum number of members are 3. Minimum number of equations and minimum number of members initially to start with is 3. So this 3 is called equations of equilibrium. Equations of equilibrium. So that's where a perfect frame is a frame with three members and three joints, and when it is loaded, it should not deflect or distort. And for any additional joint, it requires two members, and it is given by the formula m is equal to 2j minus 3. Okay. So in the next class, the coming class, I will talk about imperfect frames, and then we have exclusive analysis of truss to be solved. Okay, a small information I have given today with respect to the frames that are under consideration. So in the coming classes, we will try to see what has to be done to see that the analysis is carried out for a entire truss. So where are the trusses used? Trusses are used in the industrial shed, airport, bridges, and lot of factories. In all those places, these trusses are used. So how to calculate the forces in the truss is something we will see in the next chapter. Thank you all for your patient listening, and we will meet